what's happening, everybody? Pragmatic Addict here. I was originally going to talk about this movie yesterday. I had told everyone that I was going to be seeing this, on the 8th, which I did. I went to a 5 p.m. showing, but just to be honest with you guys, I was so fucking tired after this movie. I've been doing a lot of, Christmas shopping lately. I've been doing a lot of working, and I just, it just caught up with me. But we're talking about this movie now, and we're going to be talking about The Mean One. So I had a lot of fucking thoughts going into this movie. A lot. So first off, I would say that, before seeing the trailer, and I knew that, this movie was coming, when it was announced and everything, I could not wait to see this fucking movie. Even before seeing the trailer, I couldn't wait to see the trailer. It was one of my most anticipated films of December. Now, I know that, this is kind of following the footsteps of Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, which I will say, I'm not excited for that movie. I have never been since I heard about it, didn't watch the trailer. But we're going to be watching that one. I'll be reviewing it just because it's me. I'll review it, don't you worry. So I was really excited about this movie for a number of reasons. I'm sure a lot of people were. One is that the idea of a Grinch horror film, I've always pondered that idea. The Grinch it seems so good for a horror spin. We don't know what he is, as far as a horror story goes, making his origins and everything, his design, his mannerisms, his behavior. That stuff, it could really work for a good horror movie. And when I heard that XYZ Productions was picking this up, which are, as a production responsible for a number of good horror films, Mandy, The Invitation. I also heard that, David Howard Thornton, the fucking maniac behind Art the Goddamn Clown, was going to be playing the Grinch. And let's just say that, Terrifier 2, it's up there as far as, gnarly horror films goes. And when I heard that he was going to be playing the Grinch, I was, again, there was a lot of thoughts going through my head. I was like, okay, what's going to be the story here? What's he going to look like? Is David Howard Thornton as the Grinch going to have any dialogue? Because he's, in every movie he's been in now, I think 3, all Terrifier films, he obviously hasn't had any dialogue. And, what kind of, how is this Grinch going to act and everything? Obviously, I had a lot of fucking thoughts. And I will say this. When I saw that trailer, a lot of those hopes and excitements kind of went out the window. But here's the thing. I recently saw an official clip, which I did not react to, but I saw it and I liked it enough that I did talk about it in a post on my channel. I was saying how, this should have been in the trailer. It was a genuinely kind of creepy, scene. The production behind it, it wasn't anything explosive or anything really applaud worthy, but it kind of was reminiscent, reminded me of a YouTube horror short. Those YouTube horror shorts that, have a couple million views or whatever, have won some contests. They try enough with what they have. That's kind of what I got out of this clip. And I'm like, why didn't you put this in the trailer? Everything, I'm going to just say this, guys, everything that is in the trailer shouldn't have been. This movie, it is not well made at all. Man, I'm just coming out the gate with this, aren't I? But I was still excited to see this movie just because of the idea alone. Just, again, from someone who's always fantasized about the idea of, the Grinch becoming a horror film and then seeing it be played by, David Howard Thornton. Regardless of if this movie was going to be a fucking masterpiece or if it was going to be a fucking just pile of shit, I was not going to miss out on this movie. Now, before seeing this movie, there was also a video I caught really quickly, and it was actually an audience reaction video, and at first, I thought it was a joke, just, some bullshit trying to hype up a movie that we all knew was gonna be fucking shit. It was like a reaction of, the premiere and everything, and, all these audience saying, yeah, it's fucking creepy, it's hilarious, woo, I'm gonna watch this one every December!
The movie everyone is talking about, The Mean One. Tickets available now. People are raving about The Mean One.
It was so fun.
Awesome, I loved it.
Not what I expected. It was really good. Action, comedy.
I love this movie. I'm gonna watch it every year.
Awesome.
At first I'm just yeah, they did this for the Paranormal Activity movies too. And, I thought it was this goof and everything. And then I saw it was from the actual YouTube of the movie itself. And I was like, All right, well, hey, maybe this thing will hit above the 60% mark on Rotten Tomatoes. We'll just have to see. But basically, getting into the review now. Let's actually do this. So basically, yes, this is a horror spin on the classic tale of How the Grinch Stole Christmas. And the premise here is that, as far as, like, the original tale goes, obviously we know that, the Grinch dresses up Santa Claus and comes to our house and everything. That basically happens in this movie, only when she sees him, the mother comes downstairs to see, what the commotion is all about, sees the Grinch, freaks out, and basically the Grinch ends up killing, Cindy Lou's mother. And shortly after, we see 20 years later that Cindy Lou has come back to Newville, is what they're calling it in this movie, to kind of cope and, get some closure and hunt down the Grinch and end this thing. And when I say end this thing, so it turns out that, so one thing I was really kind of like wondering in this movie is like, were they actually going to do an original story? Which I will say they do. I will say that much. They do an original story as much as they chose to do anyway. And basically, so after, like, we see Cindy's, mother and everything get murdered, she ends up coming back 20 years to get closure and everything. She's staying in the house that, all this took place in. She decides that she's gonna, hunt down the Grinch and everything and get revenge, basically. That's what this film is about. But when she actually comes back to Newville, one thing that I was kind of like, oh, okay, that's, an interesting way to do it, is that when she comes back to Newville, everyone is against celebrating Christmas. She comes back with her dad and everything, and she's like, yeah, we're looking for, like, Christmas decorations, and they got, like, little reindeer antlers on, like, their minivan, and a cop pulls them over. He's like, hey, we don't do Christmas here. It's an actual, like, crime and everything. And then you find out that, like, it's not necessarily just the Grinch that, like, doesn't do Christmas, which, he does. The Grinch absolutely hates Christmas. But here's the spin that I actually liked about this movie, is that no one celebrates Christmas in Newville, because what happened with, Cindy's mom and everything, is an actual yearly thing where every Christmas, anybody in Newville that celebrates Christmas, even in the slightest, the Grinch will hunt them down and murder them. So nobody does Christmas. If anybody celebrates Christmas even in the slightest, they will get, like, a fine or a ticket for it. So I thought that was, a pretty fun idea, because you see very early on that this definitely is, like, a community thing. When Cindy comes back, obviously she's been gone for, like, 20 years. When she comes back and, she's, like, trying to get Christmas decorations and everything, and, she's trying to open up about her past. No one wants to, engage with her. No one wants to admit that the Grinch is even real. No one wants to talk about him. It's that, I tight-lipped thing. But what I'm gonna, say, following this is that this film doesn't really have a concrete story. It's got, I would say setup, and this doesn't really need to be like, a big thing, obviously, for this type of movie. It's not like they have to, come and, hype this thing up or, create some big fucking story around it. We all know the tale of the Grinch, and you could tell, like, that's kind of what they work with. Like, the, people behind this film are like, well, everybody knows the Grinch, we don't have to, start up with, like, some big open or anything. And that's kind of what this film is. You kind of get exactly what you're expecting, more or less. Like, if you watch the trailer, you're like, okay, this is going to be a pretty bad movie with a poorly done Grinch killing a bunch of cliche characters in a $50 movie. Yeah, that's what you're getting in this. Yeah, this doesn't really have, like, a concrete story. It kind of feels like more of, like, a long-running gag. And, that was one thing I was thinking about this, film before seeing it. I was like, well, there are obviously multiple routes you could take with this film. Obviously, the points I was saying earlier, this, like, making a genuinely creepy Grinch film, it could be done. And people have wanted to see that, for quite a while. People have definitely fantasized about that, as well as myself. But here's one thing, and this goes into a lot of it, is that this film is highly inspired by Jim Carrey's The Grinch. Everything about it, man. Even, like, the Grinch himself, I know people are probably wondering, well, what's the actual Grinch like in this movie? I had a lot of questions too. Again, does he have any dialogue? What's his attitude going to be like? What's his origins going to be like? Which I won't spoil his origins, because that's one thing I liked about the film. It's not necessarily how it went down, but the fact that it did try to kind of create an own original story, I respected that, I'll say. But as far as the mean one, I'll call him, yeah, he is very inspired by Jim Carrey. His behavior, his antics, even like little noises that he lets out, and like kind of like the way that he like walks around and kind of like does things. You could tell that this was 100% inspired by Jim Carrey's The Grinch. And I think kind of like what the, like, you know, creators like behind the film were kind of getting at was like, look, this is already like a really ridiculous idea of a film. You know, obviously no big budget's gonna pick this up. You know, like Universal or Warner Bros. Are obviously not gonna pick this up. But what we can is we can get someone who is a very iconic horror villain or who has played those kind of people, and just the idea of a Grinch horror film, that plus whatever actor we get, as long as it's a good choice, that will reel in people, which is exactly what they thought, which is exactly what they did. Because obviously, you know, like one thing I was thinking of before, like, you know, upon seeing this movie as well, was like, okay, so we're getting Art the fucking Clown. We're getting that dude to be the Grinch. Now, I know that this ain't a Damien Leone film, but like, I wonder how the kills in this are going to be compared to Terrifier. Now, obviously, again, this is a comedy horror film. It is an absolutely stupid, ridiculous, just deliberately dumb idea. And obviously, while, you know, that is being said, the makers of this film went with that. Which, you know, I would still say, you know, again, there are two ways to go about this film. You could do that where it's like, look, we only have like, you know, 50 fucking bucks. This is a stupid idea. No one's gonna expect this to be good. Let's just fucking do whatever the fuck we want with it. Literally whatever the fuck we want. Or you can make a horror film where it's like, look, let's make a creepy version of Whoville. Let's make a really fucking iconic, fucking demented Grinch, you know, with a community that has, you know, some sort of like history behind this. Like, you could have gone so many routes with this if you were actually trying to make it a genuine horror film. And that's kind of what I'm getting at, is that like, I respect some of the things that they did, you know, as people that took the route of the comedic horror film, but it's just not the Grinch film that I wanted. And again, you know, going back to the story here, it does not feel like a concrete story. And even like for the film itself, the film is like 93 minutes. I shit you not, this thing could have been easily 1 hour, maybe not even that. The film is very unevenly paced. The movie does do this thing where it goes from kind of like, you know, like random ass scene to random ass scene, where it's like, you know, something will happen and it'll go on for like quite a while, and then it'll turn out to be a dream, and then the same thing will happen. You're like, so sure that it's a dream, and then it turns out not to be a dream. And then there's just scenes in this movie where they could, you know, go places, and then it just kind of like jumps to something completely random and forgets all about that. This movie is just all over the place. It is very uneven. The people behind this movie, they did not try hard at all with anything. And again, you know, as far as like, you know, what people are going to be expecting out of this movie, you're going to be getting that. This film has every sort of genre in it. It tries everything, and it has every cliche from a character and every cliche from a character in a bad movie. And as far as the production, I'm going to say this. So I knew that this thing wasn't going to be anything like, you know, applause worthy, but the production in here and the effects and... oh man, dude, it hurts, because this is coming from a guy that saw Jeepers Creepers Reborn earlier this year, and this one ranks up there with worst effects in a movie you know, throughout this year. Now, I know I'm making this sound like it's just the worst film to come out this year, but the reason why I don't absolutely fucking trash this film is because at the same time, the makers behind this film, sure, while they didn't try at all with anything, and they literally do whatever the fuck they want with this movie. Like, they took this film's opportunity and literally did everything that they could with it. They were like, look, we can do whatever the fuck we can with this movie. No one's expecting it to be good. Again, we got a big, you know, actor for this role, and it's a Grinch horror film. No matter how good or how bad this film is, people are gonna watch it. And I think that, you know, the makers kind of went in this film with, like, just having fun. Like, they didn't expect this thing to be any good. They didn't have a whole lot of money. I'm sure a lot of this money, if not most of it, went to David Howard Thornton. So, you know, for what it is, I still respect some things that it did. It's just not the Grinch horror film And in saying that, finally getting a Grinch horror film, it's just not the movie that I would have wanted. I would definitely like a second attempt at a Grinch horror movie, one with, more kind of like value to it, more bigger production, more horror based. But, again, there are still things in this movie that, I respect. Obviously, Easter eggs is another thing. Those are scattered throughout the movie, throughout the entire fucking thing. There's actually this one scene in the movie which not only has, the most Easter eggs in it, but it actually has the most comedy that is consistent and actually kind of like lands the most. Where they're actually, so get this. There's this one scene where Cindy goes into a bar, right? The bar is called Hortons. She meets this guy. He's this like cliche, like typical like old guy of like the town that knows like everything about the mean one. He's this like hunter guy, and his name is Dr. Zeus, right? So Cindy like meets up with this guy in a bar to like kind of get like a little bit of lore about the Grinch, find out like what is he, like what does he go by, what like what is this thing? This is the only guy in the town that will actually address that the Grinch is an actual thing. And obviously, in this movie, I guess they're not allowed to say the actual, like, the Grinch, but they find ways to, like, kind of, like, go about that. Like, Cindy's, like, talking to this guy, and she's like, so what do they actually call him? And he's like, they call him the Grinch. And, like, he'll, like, stop there, and the bartender will be like, Finch! Order for Mr. Finch! And I'm just like, okay. I mean, if you can get away with it, you get away with it. And throughout the movie, it has, like, a narrator that's, like, telling the story as it plays, and he's making rhymes, and, like, even the fucking characters themselves, like, they're making rhymes and references to, like, the older movie and, like, the book and everything. But my main, besides the idea of, like, like, obviously I knew this was going to be bad once I saw the trailer, but besides seeing how the Grinch would actually be in this movie and how Art the Clown, or how David Howard Thornton would, like, portray him and everything, the main thing about this movie that was keeping me was, how is this going to play out? Which I will say, obviously, it isn't anything great. It's not groundbreaking. This is not going to... I mean, obviously, some people are liking this film based off of the fucking video I saw, which, whether that's, legit or not. But, apparently some people are liking it. And I will say this, the movie does attempt at having an original thing, as far as, like, the horror story goes. I do think that the film does try a little bit with that. And, to some measurements, I'm like, okay, well, yeah, they did fun stuff there, and they did decent there. But my main thing with this movie, the thing that was kind of keeping me together with it, was seeing how this story would actually play out. Seeing what would become of this actual Grinch horror film. And that's just kind of what it comes out to, is, like, I see what the kind of, like, film, like, I see what the makers were getting at. And I think that, whether you go down, again, the comedic horror route or just an actual horror route, you could succeed in either way. But these guys, they didn't really seem to have a set plan. They kind of, like, just did it because, they could. Obviously, making a Grinch horror film sounds like a fucking blast. And that's kind of what they thought. They were like, well, we're able to make a Grinch horror film, and we have this much money, and David Howard Thornton will pay the Grinch. Do we really need any more? And they kind of just did enough just to make this a fucking movie. Obviously, you could tell that they didn't really have too much faith in it. They didn't have too much money in it. But I still think that they could have done a lot better with this. And I still think that they could have taken it a little bit more seriously and could have tried definitely much harder in a lot of areas. And overall, guys, I'm going to give this one a strong negative review. And what's funny is, like, throughout the movie, I kept thinking, like, is this actually bad? Like, for a lot of the movie, I was like, it's never getting to that point of, like, being genuinely fucking bad. I mean, it's definitely not good. But, like, for what it is, if you accept that this movie's gonna be dumb and you know that it's gonna be bad, I think that you'll find it fine, obviously, if you lower a lot of expectations. But, like, at the end of it all, there's a lot of things that they could have done a lot better. There's a lot of things that they could have tried a lot harder at. And even going with this route with, whatever they had to work with, they still could have succeeded to, I think, a good degree. But that's just my take on it, guys. Let me know what you guys thought about The Mean One. For those who did see it, this is definitely one I want to hear a lot of opinions of. But guys, this week is about to get fucking stupid. We have a lot of Goofy films around the corner, man. So we got The Mean One coming out yesterday. Today, Christmas Bloody Christmas drops, which I'm actually going to be seeing tomorrow. And then on the 12th, a Greg Sestero found footage anthology Christmas horror film is dropping called The Christmas Tapes. It's about to get fucking goofy, and I do plan to see all of these films, so look forward to some reviews coming out, guys, this week. But definitely let me know what you guys thought about this movie. Are you guys going to end up going to see it? Are you guys going to wait till it comes to streaming if it still is on the 15th? And what's funny is, before I end this, is that when I was seeing this movie yesterday, they were actually playing the Jim Carrey Grinch film in theaters, like, at the same time. I saw this one a couple weeks ago with a friend of mine. Me and her went and saw it and everything because we just wanted to see this in the theater. And they were actually playing it. Like, when I bought tickets for this movie, The Mean One, it was, like, the advertisement for it was, like, right above The Mean One. And I'm like, for those that did, like, a back-to-back, you're a madman. But yes, guys, definitely let me know what you guys thought about the movie as well as a review down below. And look forward to a couple reviews coming this week, man. The goofiness does not stop here. I hope you guys are having a great month so far. I hope you guys are having a great day. And I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.